just can't stand it. Why? Like what? Well, I don't like rap because the voice always sounds the same. When one of music's most outspoken figures manages to make enemies everywhere he goes, it's no longer just about art. It's about character. So please, 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 let's talk about it. Today on Legend Uncovered, we're revealing the musicians who grew to despise Morrissey more than anyone else in the industry. He once admitted, "I've had very few experiences, but they've been bad. Yes, and they were a very long time ago. It's not something I'd like to relive, but the truth goes far deeper. This isn't simply a story of musical disagreements. It's about a man whose beliefs, words, and behavior created lifelong enemies across the entertainment world. Morrissey helped turn the Smiths into one of Britain's most influential bands of all time. But behind the poetic lyrics and that iconic quiff was someone who could alienate almost everyone around him, but industry insiders have long said that Morrissey's personality, as magnetic as it was maddening, destroyed friendships faster than he could create hits. His ability to offend became almost as legendary as his gift for writing. These conflicts weren't fleeting celebrity spats. They ran deep, leaving behind bitterness that lasted decades. Today, Legend Uncovered dives into the stories of the artists who publicly denounced Morrissey, vowed never to work with him again, and revealed sides of him the public rarely saw. Some of them were his closest collaborators, people who once called him a genius, but who ultimately branded him unbearable. We'll walk through 6 explosive rivalries, including one that tore apart one of rock's most cherished partnerships. Let's uncover the musicians who hated Morrissey the most, and how ego, ideology, and controversy turned brilliance into isolation. 6. Billy Bragg. Starting at number 6, we enter a rivalry that divided Britain's political music scene like few others. Billy Bragg's connection with Morrissey began in respect and ended in disgust. At first, Bragg admired Morrissey's ability to capture the working-class struggle with poetic sharpness. But as years passed, admiration turned to anger. While Bragg remained steadfast in his progressive activism, Morrissey's public statements began drifting toward ideas Bragg found deeply troubling. The tension dated back to the 1980s, when both represented opposing ends of the political music spectrum. According to industry insiders, Bragg grew uneasy as Morrissey's comments about British identity grew more divisive. He told fellow artists that Morrissey was romanticizing working-class imagery while promoting exclusionary beliefs. Bragg, a lifelong idealist, believed that music should unite, not divide. When Morrissey made remarks Bragg considered offensive and regressive, Bragg responded publicly, condemning him in interviews and social media posts. He accused Morrissey of becoming everything wrong with nostalgia, a once great artist trapped in bitterness and self-righteous pride. Friends said Bragg felt personally betrayed, watching someone he once saw as a comrade transform into a cautionary tale. By the 2000s, Bragg refused to associate with anything celebrating Morrissey's legacy. Festival organizers revealed he declined invitations if Morrissey's name appeared anywhere. In Bragg's eyes, Morrissey had proven that talent without empathy leads not to greatness, but to isolation. 5. Noel Gallagher, E. Number 5, we move to another Manchester-born feud, one that pitted 2 local legends against each other. Noel Gallagher, the outspoken Oasis guitarist, grew up idolizing the Smiths. Morrissey was once his hero, but that admiration faded quickly. Gallagher later described Morrissey as brilliant but impossible, a man stuck in the past, complaining about everything and learning nothing. By the 1990s, when Oasis were conquering stadiums, Morrissey seemed frozen in resentment. Gallagher told interviewers he found Morrissey's self-pity exhausting. He should be enjoying being a legend, not moaning about it. The two traded jabs for years. Morrissey dismissed modern British rock, and Oasis by extension, as shallow. Gallagher fired back, calling Morrissey a bitter old man who can't accept that the world's moved on. Insiders said Noel was heartbroken to realize his former hero had turned cynical. He admired the art, but not the man. By the late 2000s, Gallagher made it clear he no longer wanted any professional ties with Morrissey. When asked about potential collaborations, his answer was short: "That time's gone. We're not the same kind of people anymore." To Gallagher, Morrissey was a tragedy in slow motion, proof that genius means nothing if it's poisoned by resentment. 4. Robert Smith No. 4 brings us to a legendary rivalry in alternative music, Robert Smith of The Cure versus Morrissey of the Smiths. Both icons, both melancholic poets. But their philosophies couldn't have been further apart. Smith initially respected Morrissey's emotional depth, but he grew tired of what he saw as self-obsession masquerading as authenticity. Smith reportedly told friends that Morrissey acted as if he'd invented sadness, when in reality, countless artists had explored darkness more honestly. He viewed Morrissey's persona as performative, not sincere. The feud began in the 1980s when both bands ruled the alternative charts. Morrissey occasionally made snide remarks about The Cure, calling their style morbid and soulless. Smith, never one to stay silent, hit back, calling Morrissey a miserable bard who takes himself too seriously. Behind the humor, though, was genuine animosity. Smith found Morrissey's superiority unbearable, believing that true artistry doesn't need constant validation or public suffering. As time passed, Smith's disdain only deepened. He avoided festivals where Morrissey performed and dismissed him in interviews as a man addicted to his own. Reflection. Industry veterans said Smith viewed Morrissey as someone who wasted his gifts by refusing to evolve. For Robert Smith, integrity meant growth. For Morrissey, it meant staying frozen in time, and the difference defined their lifelong divide. 3. Mike Joyce. At number 3, we uncover a feud that tore apart the foundation of the Smiths and revealed the darker side of fame. The Morrissey versus Mike Joyce legal war. Joyce, the drummer who gave the Smiths their heartbeat, discovered he was earning a fraction of what Morrissey and Johnny Marr made. When he sued them in the 1990s, the case exposed shocking truths about Morrissey's attitude toward his bandmates. Court documents revealed Morrissey viewed Joyce and bassist Andy Rourke not as creative partners, but as employees. The judge's words were devastating, describing Morrissey as devious, truculent, and unreliable. Joyce won the case, securing back payments and royalties. But in the process, he shattered Morrissey's reputation among fellow musicians. What might have been a quiet settlement became a moral turning point. Artists across Britain watched as the so-called voice of the underdog mistreated his own colleagues. For many, Joyce's victory wasn't just personal justice, it was symbolic. It exposed how ego and greed can corrode even the most meaningful artistic bonds. The fallout left permanent scars. Morrissey never forgave Joyce, and Joyce never forgot. To Andy Rourke, number 2 brings another devastating chapter. Morrissey's falling out with bassist Andy Rourke. One of the most underrated musicians of the 1980s, Rourke, loyal for years, defended Morrissey publicly long after the Smiths' breakup. But behind the scenes, resentment grew. As the royalty battles played out, Rourke saw firsthand how Morrissey's ego dominated everything. He eventually sided with Joyce, admitting that Morrissey had treated the rhythm section as disposable. In later interviews, Rourke spoke candidly about the toxic environment within the Smiths, where every word and look from Morrissey could shift from charm to cruelty in seconds. Rourke's honesty shattered the myth of Morrissey as a misunderstood genius. When Rourke reunited with Joyce and Marr for later projects, they made one thing clear: Morrissey wasn't welcome. Festival organizers confirmed. Rourke flatly refused to share a stage with him again. It was perhaps the most painful rejection of all, coming not from critics, but from those who knew him best. To Rourke, Morrissey wasn't a legend anymore. He was a reminder of how brilliance can destroy itself. 1. Johnny Marr. Finally, at number 1, we reach the most heartbreaking musical breakup in British rock, Morrissey and Johnny Marr. Together, they created magic. Marr's shimmering guitar and Morrissey's haunting voice defined an era, but their friendship, once electric, turned toxic. During the final days of the Smiths, tension built to the breaking point. Marr reportedly felt suffocated by Morrissey's control and emotional volatility. He left in 1987, saying it was the only way to survive as both a musician and a human being. Marr tried to stay kind. He even defended Morrissey for years after their split, but Morrissey couldn't let go. He blamed Marr publicly for the Smiths' end and later accused him of betrayal. Eventually, Marr had enough. When reunion offers worth millions came their way, Marr refused every single one. He told promoters, "No amount of money is worth reopening that wound." To Marr, Morrissey had become impossible, a man defined by grievance and pride. And so, what could have been one of rock's greatest reunions never happened. The partnership that changed British music forever ended not with applause, but with silence.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.